A very good evening to you all. It is another edition of Business Digest. Thank you for being part of the show. Stay tuned for what's coming up. Now, as we all know, this week, Kigali will be hosting different heads of state and government, private and public sector leaders, investors, to mention but a few, at the Transform Africa Summit to discuss on different measures on how to boost Africa's digital economy. Let's have a quick insight on what the summit will be all about.
Delegates in the country that are to attend the 2019 Transform Africa Summit that begins on Tuesday say it is without a doubt catalyst for technological development on the continent. Earlier this week, with the start of the summit looming, preparations were on the final stages. Those attending from other parts of the world, including IT senior executives, say they are pleased to attend the 2019 Transform Africa.
I am here, obviously, for the Transform Africa Summit to foster some good relationships and partners for the organization I work for, Andela. We have an office in Nigeria and also in Rwanda, so we're looking to see what other governments we can partner with, what other organizations we can partner with to kind of grow Andela across the continent, and build software engineers and develop talent across Africa. I think it's a great idea. I think that Rwanda is quickly sort of making itself the cornerstone of technology here in Africa, and I expect some really amazing things. I expect a lot of good networking. I expect a lot of good ideas and partnerships and collaborations to be fostered and then followed through here.
I've been attending this summit since 2017. I think it's a very good initiative. It has changed the way Africa thinks somehow in member countries. If you look at this year's theme, I think would say is boosting Africa's digital economy, because we need to take advantage of the innovations that are happening. If we can harmonize as countries, I think we'll move in the right direction. As a single country, I don't think we can do it, but as Africa, we can go miles and miles.
Officials of the Smart Africa Secretariat have confirmed that discussions at this year's summit will focus on the use of fiber optic cables on the continent, e-commerce, smart IDs, and the construction of data centers. Funding for such endeavors will also be of paramount importance during the sessions. The 4-day summit comes as countries of the Smart Africa Initiative have more than tripled in the last 5 years. New member countries are also expected to be welcomed at this year's event.
Not my first time to attend the summit. Last year I was here and we had a fantastic time. Of course, the expectations are that we want to move a step further from the discussions that we had last year. Obviously, everybody is very excited about the initiative that your country has brought into the fore. And I think with all the participation of all the members, we should be able to achieve what other countries have achieved, globally.
How do you see?
Obviously, the prospects for growth are very, very high. Yeah, because what matters, I think, for me, is to provide leadership. Yeah, so the fact that as African countries, they've come up with this kind of initiative, which means that they want to move in tandem. They want to move together as a continent, in order to achieve economic growth, through the use of ICTs. So the prospects are very, very high. What matters is the will, the political will, and also working together. That way it should be able to be achieved. Progress is assured.
I've been coming here in the past, but the whole idea is to support the initiative, because this is indeed what we need in Africa, is to support innovations. I think although it's very difficult to just like put a finger on the exact outcome of these events, what is true, however, is that people are becoming more and more aware of the role that technology today plays, especially innovation in driving the economies and transforming the lives of our people. So this is now becoming common knowledge. But what is important for this gathering is that it tries and motivate local entrepreneurs and encourage homegrown solutions. And you can see it happening even in my country. You see it happening most of the time. You have the young boys playing with digital technology, especially with mobile phones today. The digital transformation, especially in the financial sector, is awesome. So you see that happening. Homegrown solutions in Kenya. You've seen homegrown solutions in South Africa, in Zambia, where I come from. Young boys, are doing a lot of work. So, and this is coming from this kind of interactions. I think there is a little bit of inspiration that is coming always from this.
Now, this year's Transform Africa Summit, which is to kick off on Tuesday, will see a rare addition on the long list of participants. Among this high-profile lineup includes Sophia, the first humanoid robot with high degree of artificial intelligence. Sophia is the first human-like robot which was developed by Hong Kong-based company Hanson Robotics. Hanson Robotics was founded by David Hanson Jr., an American roboticist, designer and researcher who previously worked at Disney as a sculptor and filmmaker. Sophia, a citizen of Saudi Arabia and a United Nations Development Programme UNDP ambassador, has the ability to see, follow faces, sustain eye contact and recognize individuals. Sophia was activated on February 14, 2016 and made its first public appearance at the South by Southwest Festival in mid-March 2016 in Austin, Texas, United States. Sophia's creator David Hanson says she was made about the future of humankind in a demonstration of artificial intelligence which enables the robot to process speech, have conversations using a natural language subsystem, can walk and can display more than 50 facial expressions. Experts in robots and software engineering say that this robot has an exceptional level of intelligence which is almost close to humankind. Sophia has been fed with vast computerized information that helps it to process various functions. Sophia has been covered by media around the globe and has participated in many high-profile interviews. In October 2017, Sophia became the first robot to receive citizenship of any country. November 2017, Sophia was named the United Nations Development Programme's first ever innovation champion and is the first non-human to be given any United Nations title. Sophia, the robot, is expected to participate in the panel discussions and interviews during the Transform Africa Summit in Kigali this week.
All right, so we are coming to you from the Transform Africa Summit, where major discussions are currently undergoing on how to boost Africa's digital economy. And with us is Dr. Amani Abu-Zeid, Africa Union Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy. She's here to talk to us about broadband and how to involve women in the tech industry in Africa, and also a variety of other topics such as cybersecurity, to mention but a few. Thank you so much, Miss, for taking the time to be part of the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's always a renewed pleasure to return to Kigali.
Right. So obviously it's not your first time either to be part of Transform Africa Summit. What are your expectations for this current summit?
I think the continent is moving very fast and taking bold steps in terms of digitalization and digital economy. And I see that many of the ideas came either to fruition or are maturing, so they need even bolder actions. What we're here for is, one, to make sure that these actions are being concretized, but also to mobilize and help mobilize, more international expertise and finance for many of the initiatives that we are launching across the continent. This is one thing, but also to learn and listen about the advancements in some of these areas for us to take into consideration. It is a very opportune and very interesting time for the continent, and particularly for Smart Africa and Transform Africa. And I'm really happy that we are converging. I mean, the ideas are converging in terms of what needs to be done for the next phases.
Great. Now, as we get deeper into discussion in this interview, what is the state of internet infrastructure across Africa currently?
The landscape is very patchy and diverse, and we have. I mean, Africa is a big continent, and we talked about 55 countries, and you will see even from country to country the things are very different. Also within a country, within one country, between rural and urban, there is quite a gap. And someone said this morning, I'm just borrowing the expression that was said, this is a continent where you see few people living with the 4G and the majority are living in the 2G world. I think this is very true, and this is one of the major challenges that we're having within one country, how to ensure that access to the internet and knowledge of what to do with this internet is there. So we need to bridge the gap urban-rural.
Are there any current...
And we need to lower the prices because it's still very pricey and access is very expensive on the continent, 3 or 4 times more than the rest of the world. But also we need to connect between countries, and the connectivity between countries is one of the major issues that were debated this morning, and creating more data traffic on the continent will help also reduce the prices.
But currently, are there any infrastructure improvements that are undergoing to improve the gap?
There's a cognizance now that these gaps exist, and there are several initiatives across the continent, some led by the African Union, some under the AU, the AUDA NEPAD. Also, Smart Africa is doing a great work, and what is also encouraging that we're seeing that the private sector is also, our own private sector, the African private sector is coming into play, and they're putting their efforts into bridging, into connecting the continent, either north to south or even east to west. So there's a lot of this work going on, and we will see this happening, I'm sure, very soon, and also expedited by things like the African Union initiative for a free trade area, African free trade area. This will also help expedite many of these projects.
All right, so let's talk about cyber crimes and cyber security. According to the statistics that I have that were released last year on cybercrime, 50 million suspicious connections are suspected by the central bank, and 289 million francs in Rwanda was involved in cybercrime just last year. What is African Union doing to prepare Africa in terms of cybersecurity?
Let me just say that issues of cybersecurity is not just about fraud or money, but also it's about data protection and personal data protection. So you do not wish that your identity or information about you be leaked or put into the wrong hands or misused online, and they could be misused online for all kinds of purposes, and one of them is bullying, and one of them is criminal, one of them is abuse, trafficking, human trafficking. Lots of things could happen online. So while we are pushing a lot and boldly into digitalization on the continent, the African Union also is working on the cybersecurity and personal data protection. We have a convention, the Malabo Convention, that has been developed in order to ensure this cybersecurity and personal data protection, but also we are rolling out a series of workshops and programs across the continent to capacitate our governments and our stakeholders in terms of sensitize and capacitate in issues of cybersecurity and data protection. Again, these are very sensitive things, of course.
In your own opinion, what do you think are the root causes of cybercrime?
in Africa?
That crime is crime, whether it's online or offline. Along the way, when just that there will always, in any society, there are people who are not righteous or crimes that happen. Now that we are moving our activities in a different sphere, crimes happen. So they happen. The thing is, are we prepared? Do we have the right regulations? Are we sensitized enough? Do we know what to do if something happens or something is leaked? How to protect our citizens? How to ensure that our young people, but also how to ensure that our children are protected against these crimes. So it's let us just say that the world has moved into a different sphere. So with that, every time you do or an innovation comes in with all the benefits, there will always be a side issue that we need to deal with, whether it's crime or if it's a highway, the road accidents. So you need to put all the precautions, the awareness, the sensitization, and the capacity in order to deal with it.
All right. So, Dr. Madi, I'm not trying to take too much of your time, but so we're going to move on to our last question. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be discussing about involving women in the tech industry.
Yes.
What is Africa Union doing in terms of involving women in the tech industry?
We do have large programs for women for science and technology in general, because again, this is an area where we want our young people to be, but specifically for girls in science and girls in technology, the program that we are doing with the International Telecommunication Union, and we celebrate each year. Last year, actually, we celebrated here also in Kigali, along with the Ms. Dick, that is a Smart Africa initiative. So women in science and technology is a big theme for the African Union, and there are actions and a whole series of actions that are being done by my colleague Commissioner for Science and Youth, who is working on this. Also, that's on the education side, but also the startups and the incubators. There are now more and more incubators and hubs that put quota for girls, and that's important that we again make sure that our girls get into these tech activities and projects. Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to see what Ms. Geek has in store for us. Yeah, you're still watching Business Digest. We still have more to come. Just stay with us.
And that's all we had for you this week. Thank you for being part of the show. I want to give a big thanks to our sponsors, Bank of Kigali. Business Weekly Tips up next. My name is Diana Iriza, and I'll see you all next week.